Hi everyone, welcome you all to the webinar today. I'm Aditi. Most of you already know me. You've seen my face on all the recent webinars we've done so far. And yes, so welcome you all today. Good evening to all of you and good afternoon to people joining in from India and here. And with me, I have Sid, as popularly known to all of you. He's been there with me on a lot of webinars, and he is a face that you've mostly seen on events and collaborated. So welcome you, Sid. Thanks for joining in today on this webinar on a very short notice. And
Thanks, Aditi.
sorry for troubling you again. But then we really want to know so much about the videos that you guys have been doing internally, and there's a lot of momentum in your team, even in the COVID situation.
Yeah.
So I would really want you to address the audience today and talk more about how you guys are keeping the momentum in the COVID situation, also doing the good work in middle of Amphan that affected the city, Bengal, and how is it all happening, and talk about the videos that's been done and so on. So thank you today. Thanks for joining in. And guys, this is a 30 minutes webinar again. This will be followed up with a QA. So feel free to just drop in the questions in the middle, and that also gives us some direction. So we'll be happy to take it up. And thanks for all of you. Thanks to all of you for joining in. Sid, welcome all over.
Yeah, thanks. No, so first of all, I think the value of virtual events now is being established every week. We of course never expected that we would be so busy at this time. We always had E2M Live has been a product for more than 7 years. And now we're doing multiple events every week. And I think why this is why we are being the choice is because it's not like it's about the various formats that we offer, and that the comprehensiveness of the platform that's helping people. And I think today we are going to go a little bit deeper rather than, I think most of our attendees understand about the value of events. COVID has taught us what's important in life and not. And I think it has taught us that people cannot live without events. So that's good to know, being in the industry. So people are finding new ways to get together, discover. And I think this afternoon or almost evening now in Singapore, we're going to discuss predominantly the various formats of video, Aditi, and how different forms of video help you in engaging with your audience and helpful in your virtual events.
Right. So, Sid, a very important question right at the beginning, before you even go into the product, is how is video relevant to the virtual event industry? I know when you say virtual, you mean online, and a lot of it has to do with video, of course. But recent buzzword is video is the heartbeat, I would say, of a virtual conference. So, if you could maybe run us through what exactly you mean when you say it's at the heart of everything that you put together.
That's a great point. So now I think if you take a step back, I mean, video as a channel, video as a delivery, I think it's in many forms absolutely in the heart of what virtual events is, the promise of virtual events. But I think on a larger scale, this entire phenomenon of 4G, 5G, the digital transformation that we talk about, I think a lot of them is supported by video in its many forms. I mean, if you look at your digital habits, right? People are spending anywhere from 4 to 5 hours on a minimum on digital devices, which includes mobile and your desktop, to upwards of 10, 12 hours a day, right? Depending on who you are, what you do. And if you just take away video from that piece, what's left, right? You have no Netflix, you have no Prime Video, you have no YouTube, you have Facebook without any videos, you have no Instagram without any video. I mean, the consumer world as we know, would absolutely fall flat without video. And the same thing if you go to the enterprise. Of course, we've all seen what video conferencing it is, but even in the promise of other areas like IoT, for example, it's essentially the same technology of video that's helping you transmit and get access, like, for example, remote cameras. And tomorrow when you talk about 5G, you're talking about VR, AR, but essentially it's a form of video that's being transmitted to the same channel. So I think video occupies a very large proportion of our attention every day. And when you come to virtual events, it's very important to understand how do you deliver video in its 5 forms that we'll discuss today. and
Mhm.
help our audiences get be better informed about the potential of video in virtual events.
Sure. So absolutely, Mane, I totally agree because digital video, if I should say, has a great impact. And on this webinar, I think we are going to really focus on the 5 different types of videos, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
going forward. But then, absolutely, as an event planner or as a marketer, I think it's very important to understand that digital video has too much of an impact when we plan events,
right,
when we plan
right,
virtual conferences. So
right.
absolutely. Sid, please go ahead. Yeah.
So yeah, so I know we were discussing just before the webinar. I think the buzzwords around video, especially when you're trying to be a practitioner or implement video, and
Absolutely.
these are some buzzwords. I know some of our audiences may not be interested in this, but I think it's valuable to understand, at least from a definition point of view. We're not going to details of encoder software and all that,
Sure,
but
sure.
these 4 things I think are really valuable. So the first point being adaptive bitrate, and I think all of us view video in YouTube, or you're viewing it now. I think we have to understand that we all understand HD and SD, right,
Absolutely.
which
We
is
are
very
the
popular.
audience who are on Netflix and Prime
Yeah.
all the time. Absolutely.
So HD is technically called 1080p, and there is you can go to Wikipedia and find out why exactly it is. And if you actually go to your YouTube player, you'll find that you can actually select the bitrate that you want. Usually it's on auto, and I think this is really important for a virtual event where you want the bitrate to automatically change based on the connection and the device quality. Because if you keep a fixed bit rate, you're either going to have a very poor performance, or people are just going to lose the
Mhm,
connection.
mhm,
So the ability for your system to say go from HD to say 720 and then 480 and then 360, and then have that adaptive range, which is done automatically,
sure.
is really key. In some case, so as an example, for example, um, to give you a specific example, let's say you're having a panel session, right? You're having 10 panel members. So let's say you start off with one panel member, right? So it's the host, it's the key host of the panel in a virtual event, and then you
Mhm,
have a guest, a panel member. Now, at that situation, for example, you could automatically by default start off with 1080p kind of streaming or 720. And then as more panel members join in, where the
mhm,
size of the windows reduce, you could want it to automatically go down based on the number of panel members, right? So that's an example of situational bitrate streaming. Even though the connection is constant, because
mhm.
we find that people are now at home, and most of the people have sort of good bandwidth at home. So they say, then why do you need adaptive bitrate when I'm at home? But essentially, it helps you when you have say 15 panel members, right? Like on our platform, you can theoretically go up to 16, including the screen shares, and that's again where it can be useful. The second and third, I'll actually explain together. I know it's a mouthful for a lot of our customers, and I'm not going to go too deep into this. But
Sure.
if you remember, talking about RTMP first, I think the best way to describe that would be if you remember the Flash days. When you had Adobe Flash on our browsers,
Absolutely.
it's no
Yes.
longer there, and I think by December this year, it's going to be de-supported from all browsers as a mandate. But if you
Mhm,
remember, just about 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, it was very much there before Steve Jobs, gave that letter denouncing Flash for security and for performance. So RTMP was essentially the format in which you streamed video from,
mhm,
say, the source, like a camera or a live event, to a server, and also from the server to the client. Client mean whichever device is viewing it, whether it's a browser, whether it's a mobile app, whether it's a TV, whichever is the end device. So RTMP is actually the standard because you and I think everybody, even a 6-year-old child, understands that you have for example MP3, and you have MP4, and you have MOV. MP3 for your music, and then you have video formats. But of course, those video formats cannot stream because they require your entire file to be downloaded before they play. So RTMP was a standard to do that. Now, at the client side, RTMP was actually just supported by Flash. Now, since Flash is gone, RTMP is still there as a standard to stream from the source to the server. So it's still a very popular standard, but from the server to the client, RTMP is literally gone now for most practical purposes, with Flash going away. So you will ask me, Raditi, and I apologize for some of our customers if it is sounding too technical. And this is, trust me, this is the most technical slide you will see this afternoon. We'll jump to the interesting bits just in a second.
Sure.
But I think some of you will find it useful. So I just wanted to spend a moment on this. So, so when you have a piece of a video file or a video stream that needs to be sent to a server, and then from that server it needs to be sent to the different devices. RTMP was one standard which is still very popular. A similar standard is HLS, which is essentially promoted by Apple. And I think this is the most popular standard today, more of a standard between the server and the device. So you understand what I'm saying? You have the origination of the live event, whether it's a file or a video, and then it goes to a server. So, and the beauty of HLS is that it's supported by mobile devices by default, and I think is the most popular format today. There's one more format, which is MPEG-, which is promoted by Google. But MPEG- is not yet there. It's much higher quality than HLS, but it's not there because it's not very well supported by mobile devices today. So in effect, HLS is the protocol which defines live streaming from your server to the device. So for example, if people are able to see my video and your video right now,
Yes,
it's
yes.
most likely HLS, which is enabling,
HLS is running.
or RTMP, like this, since Zoom uses client, RTMP is still a choice because they can bake in the client in a downloadable software. But on the browser, RTMP is just not used anymore. So that's about it. That's as complicated, and I understand this can be over the top for some people. Finally,
No, I think I think that's a very interesting point you've raised, Sid. This is something which we all, when we are dealing with videos right now, and we are all consumers of a lot of video content. But this really makes a lot of, it gives us a lot of insight. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And finally, I think we have to understand that when you're streaming something live, and say it's a match, like right now my camera is streaming my video live and your camera is streaming live, right? So something is happening in that entire journey. And the moment the camera is capturing the footage, the encoded format first is, the video is done in something called H.264. A newer format is the H.265, but predominantly H.264, and the voice is encoded in AAC. That's all you need to know. I mean, we can have a whole session on the streaming technologies, but I think if you go into the world of video and streaming, you will encounter these buzzwords a lot. And I think it is just helpful to understand that the encoded format is H.264 and AAC. The delivery vehicle is RTMP from your source to the server. And from the server to devices is essentially HLS. MPEG- is another format, but for practical purposes, it's HLS today. So again, that's all I'm going to talk about video buzzwords for now. Yeah, and if there are any specific questions on this, we can take it as we move forward.
Absolutely. Guys, feel free to drop your questions because it would give us a direction. And thank you, Sid, for explaining the type of video formats that you've just shown us. And I think this is quite informative. But then I have a very important follow-up question right at that. As an audience, or as a user, we understand a video is a video, right?
Right.
So, I mean, a video is really a video, but you talk about 5 different types of a video, which is possible on your platform. So if you could maybe now run us through what are the 5 types and why do you have 5 types? How does it really differ? Because I think most of the audience would really be keen to know, when you say video, it is a video. We all see a video. So but then how do they differ?
Exactly. So that's a good point and a good segue into the main topic of our event this afternoon. And see, what we need to understand is that, of course, video first came in the form of movies, right? So you were seeing a movie or you were seeing YouTube, and there was little engagement around the video, right? So you got the video. Of course, there's things like adaptive bitrate and all the complicated buzzwords that I spoke about. But as you said, as a consumer, you just hit play and you're just seeing a video,
it plays.
right?
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So, but as practitioners, as potential hosts for event planners, Now video is coming out as just a one-way feed into a two-way interaction or a multi-interaction. So with the growth of digital, video is no longer just a passive television. It's not like I'm watching a TV show on through the internet. That's how it started. But
Sure.
today you can engage it in at least 5 ways, and actually going forward even beyond these 5 ways when you talk about VR, AR, things like that, especially VR. But but today, as we speak, we have customers. In fact, right today, yesterday, they're using these different forms of video
Hmm.
to to monetize, to engage, to transform their events.
Right.
And so let's go one by one. I think then it'll become clear. So the first one is the easy one, right? We all understand on demand. The entire Netflix is on demand. The entire YouTube is on demand, and this is very well understood by most people. However, what's important is to make sure, when we compare it to the likes of Facebook and YouTube,
Hmm.
we need to understand that those are companies with billions of dollars that have been spent in engineering and spent in the data center. And we very easily assume that it'll work. But when you want to use that same thing inside your event, you need to make sure, for example, all your exhibitors are able to upload the video, and it should run across devices, as an example, right? You need to make sure that the session recordings, that suppose you missed a session, so you would want your session recording to be later available, and you could potentially monetize that session recording, right? So all of these things make on-demand video as the first form of video, which is not very interactive, but again using things like paywall around it, or even capturing live sessions. It becomes, you can say, ground zero. The base
Right.
for any event. Yeah. And this is very interesting, actually, Aditi, the second point. I think a lot of people have never thought about this. And this is something that they experience on platforms like YouTube and Facebook almost every day. And this is a live stream. Now, of course, most of us are at homes. I mean, we've just started 20% attendance in the office.
Sure.
But for most people, they are at home. So when you talk about live streaming, there is really no physical live event that you want to stream, because it's not a sports, or it's not an actual event happening in a hotel that you want to stream. Now, so what do you stream then? You are streaming a video which was pre-recorded, or it might be recorded yesterday, or it might be, for example, multiple videos that you've stitched together. And this is very relevant. So like, for example, all these fundraisers that you're seeing, like I don't know if you saw on Facebook, you have these celebrities that are doing this, music piece to raise money for charity or for a cause.
Right.
And you
Right.
often have these curated, and even on YouTube, if you go at any point and go for live videos, you will see that it has, music that goes all across the night, and it says it's live.
Mhm.
Things like that, things that make you go to sleep, for example. So now the value of having something pre-recorded, but streaming it at a specific point, is what we're talking about here. So the fact is that it needs the same technology as a regular live stream, as if you were trying to live cast an interview, or you were trying to live cast like it's a sports event, but then you're doing it with a pre-recorded file. And trust me, this is actually becoming the most popular form of passive live stream. So as an example, you could, for example, telecast it to your event app or site, or you could also do it on YouTube Live or Facebook Live at the same time. And this is something that's actually, because on-demand videos are considered as I said, ground zero. People are not too excited about it. But when they
True.
know that a specific video would go live at a specific time, and it's only available at that time,
Mhm.
it's really valuable.
Absolutely. I mean, this is quite interesting, and the fact that you can also share it on your event landing page or event app, I think that's a great thing, because
Yeah.
that's what we need now.
So consumer events which are available to the public, they often say that, hey, can I stream this to Facebook Live and YouTube Live as well? But
True.
private events, the enterprise companies or private associations, where they don't want outsiders or the public to get into it. In that case, they would be limited to the event site or the event
Website
app.
on the app. Yeah. I think
So I
that
mean,
makes a
yeah,
lot
so
of
some
sense.
differences here between, a live streaming and an on-demand. Of course, the fact is, and the funny part is, Aditi, is that you have the same video. Say you have one piece of video, any video.
Mhm.
You make it available on your website saying that see it when you want, right? You can come and click it like YouTube, see it when you want. At the other hand, the same video, you say that it's going to live stream at 6 p.m., for example, and it's only going to be there at 6 p.m. And let's say if it's a half an hour video, 6 to 6:30, the engagement is more than double. So if you had, for example, 100,000 viewers in X in on demand, you can expect at least 300,000 viewers in live stream. So that's the psyche, that you suddenly get much more engagement. And then, of course, talking about psychoanalytics, things like FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. People know that this is going live at 6, as an example, or 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. And
Right.
they are there, they will watch it because it's live. So if you're hosting a virtual event, and if you think that, oh, let me put this video live and you can come and watch it whenever you want, that doesn't work. The difference between a webinar sort of thing, what we're doing now, and the live event is that you tie it up to FOMO, tie it up to the fact that the event begins at 9 a.m. or 6 p.m., for example, and this is going to happen only then. And it's just amazing. It's technically it's the same video, just that you don't have to play the play button. It automatically streams,
Right.
but the engagement and FOMO is just amazing how it's more in live streaming a video file. Now, what's similar? Content reuse is similar, of course. On demand is inherently usable, and live streaming, you can make it available after that. But what I've seen, if you see your Facebook habits, if you see a video and see that this was live streamed 10 hours ago, you're more likely to click that and watch that video rather than a sort of, a video that was pre-recorded and just stored in the library. So again, even in content reuse, I think to some degree there is an advantage there. And finally, the wow factor, somehow people are hooked onto live. It's not a coincidence that we have, our division of WebSpiders E2M is called E2M Live. People are hooked to live. There's a difference between
Absolutely.
passive and live, and that's what we talk about, the wow factor. In fact, since we're on there, we did, I mean, this is an event we did last month, where it was a charity event where they were raising money, and they raised a lot of money. And you had people like Elton John and Elizabeth Hurley performing. So all the video was pre-recorded, but streamed live, which means if you were late, you would join it. So if you came 10 minutes late, you would only see it after 10 minutes, the point. You cannot rewind it, you cannot go to the beginning. So this
Okay.
was an amazing, and you had, actually I cannot give out specific details
Sure.
about this project for confidentiality, but let me tell you, it was a smash hit. And we are doing this every week. Of course, you have bigger artists here who are more popular. That's why we tend to show this, but we are doing this every day. And this just gives you an example of, on demand and simulated life. I hope this helps, Aditi. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. This does, and I think there is a. Okay, yeah, sure. So we'll answer the questions one after the other, and
Yeah.
yes, you can please show us the third one.
So,
I already
yeah,
see
I think
on the screen
we are
there is
slightly
the live
running out
session.
of, yeah, so we are slightly going behind our time. So let me
Yeah,
jump to the next part. So
sure.
this is the live session broadcast is, I would have to say that it is sort of similar to what we are doing right now. So you can say one of the modules within E2M Live is sort of Zoom-like. So I'm not going to spend too much of time because we understand what the experience is, but the biggest difference is you can experience it in the browser. Now with Zoom, what happens is that, of course, it has become popular. So a lot of people have the client, but when you're doing an event, you don't want people to download things. That's a
True.
big friction. So we've used technology that allows them to experience the same live session on the browser and in
Yeah.
a much more amazing UI. And the fact is that we are also able to do professional, a professional services team actually on request for large events, they're also able to change the UI. So let me give you an example. Like this was actually just taken. So you can see, how this is entirely on the UI, and you can see things like, how you can get the name of the person right there. You can see on the right, you get all the standard things like chat and Q&A, but at the same time, what's the role? So for example, if people come from different roles, you can have that, and you can actually get data from their Active Directory and superimpose on that. People can have their Excel sheets right there. So it takes it to absolutely another level.
Right.
So I'm not going to
That
spend too
also
much time
has
on this.
another
Yeah,
question, Sid. There is a
sorry.
question that has come in that's a very interesting one.
Yeah,
The question is, do you mean we can simulate a live broadcast, but video was pre-recorded?
exactly, exactly.
That's exactly what you're explaining right now, right?
That was my second point, the video two. Yeah, that's exactly. And it's very complicated, let me tell you. It's not something to trivialize, because to make that happen,
Sure.
you need to make sure that, first of all, for example, you need to make sure that when we talk about adaptive bitrate, the same video should be transcoded into all the popular forms, right? All the popular forms. So when you talk about 240 to 1080p, you need to make sure that it can handle scale. Now, as I said, I think companies like Facebook and YouTube have trivialized scale because they do it very well, and they do it with billions of dollars of engineering and data center hardware. But when regular companies who are not technology companies try and do that, they hit a wall often, because they don't realize that it's not as easy as just uploading a video file and hitting play. So that's an experience that we've found, that you need to make sure that you have the right server infrastructure and the right software to enable this. So I'm going to actually come to the part 4. So I know I breezed through the part 3 because I think the webinar concept is understood by almost everyone. So I'm not going to
Absolutely.
spend time on there, but it's part of our suite. So just to let people know. Now, the most exciting thing is Roundtable, and I'll tell you why. See, almost all the video, especially interactive video that we do, is with people we know, right? If you're doing a phone call or video call, if you're doing a FaceTime with your family members, with your friends, you know who you're going to talk to. When you're doing it at a company level, you know that these are my colleagues, right? Even in a webinar, you knew that, okay, E2M is coming and they'll be talking about it, and like attendees don't really are engaging here. But what in roundtables, what I find really exciting is the fact that you see, for example, a roundtable like that, you see the name of the person that you've never met, but you like his profile, and you simply take a seat and you start video chat with that person. And the topic is defined as well. So for example, if you're talking about, say, video streaming, or if you're talking about financial auditing, or you're talking about, say, a specific sport, whichever is the theme of the event, and that's a table where I can discuss. And I think the thrill of having a video chat and networking with a person that you never met before, I'm telling you, is probably the best experience of serendipity and discovery that you can have. I think in real world events, you do that, like when you're having coffee, or when you're at the lunch side, or maybe when there is a break in the session, you would say hello to the person next to you. But you and me know, Aditi, we've been in this industry for a long time. It's only very few people who are in the mood that day, and who have the inherent gift of the gab, so to speak, and who are inherently, not very shy, who can say that I met 5 new people, right? But here, people are meeting dozens of new people every single day. In fact, I would say in a few hours, because many of these events are also, what we're finding the trend is that these virtual events are scheduling it as 3 to 4 hour events, and then doing it again the next day. So this is absolutely, I think, the best use of video in driving discovery and serendipity.
I think that's fabulous, and the fact that I can see on your screen there is an option to spectate as well. I mean, not just
Yeah,
people who really cannot maybe attend it because the
yeah,
seats are full; they can even spectate. So I think that's a great
yeah.
option.
So imagine there's a celebrity, right? Imagine, I heard somebody recently talk about an event where Kim Kardashian was going to give beauty tips in a private roundtable scenario, and the tickets were like very, very expensive. So, you're talking about, in the high tens of thousands of dollars per ticket to attend. and you had people like Kim Kardashian hosting the table and giving beauty tips, right? And Kylie Jenner, for example, talking about thing. And this was an actual event planned.
Right.
So there would be a lot of people willing to pay even to just be as an attendee or as a spectator and watch that conversation happening. So we have the spectate mode as well. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, this is my favorite. This specific form of video is actually my favorite. This looks similar, but just imagine they're meeting for the first time. And again, the looks, you can change it based on the design on the CMS. And finally, the one-to-one calls. So, this is again, uh, similar to Roundtable in the sense that you might be meeting people you've never met, but in a virtual expo kind of situation. What we do is that, let's say you go up to a exhibit and then you see that, oh, these are 5 people in the booth from the booth staff, and you can see that they're on the table and they are busy or not, and then you enter into, so it's the same thing as walking up to a booth, right? Similarly, events where you have attendees, where you want attendees to, in some events you don't want attendees to mingle with each other, depending on the type of event, but in some events you do want the attendees to talk to each other. Again, either by pre-setting that meeting or by randomly going to a social lounge and hitting talk. Again, a great way, one-to-one video call to actually do the engagement. And
Absolutely. I think it's a great thing because when we go for events, and you and I, we both know that a lot of people do not want to talk so much, at that particular point of time. They want to maybe request a call later or maybe catch back later. So I think this fact of being able to do our speed dating later, video call
this is actually, that's a great point. So this is actually something that we're rolling out in July, which is actually a combination of one-to-one and roundtable, where, just, it's like a business speed dating, where you agree that, let's say from 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. you enter the lounge, and based on broad selection of profile, you're going to get random people coming on your screen, and you're going to be able to talk to them anywhere from 1 minute to 3 minutes, and the event planners can set up the time. And so within 30 minutes you could be talking to like 10, 12, 15 people. So it's like a speed dating, but a business speed dating. And the people come in, you have a video call, and they go out, and somebody else comes in, and as you're talking to them, you can actually right click, see their profile, see what kind of company it is, and then talk to them. And so this is for specific kind of events that want to encourage. It could even, we're working with one company where they want to do it with their employees, because they are having an employee, like a town hall. It has almost 5,000 employees. Now, it's not a large number, but even with a few hundred employees, we know that you don't know everybody. Now, imagine with 5,000 people, you barely know people beyond the 100. And they just want employees of that firm to be able to know each other, not within the department, but across. So this is being used by various scenarios, but we are launching it in July with our first event that's using it. And I think this takes it to altogether another level of video engagement. So
absolutely, sounds very interesting, Sid, and thanks for sharing that. And there is one question that I have, and I'm sure a lot of people here on the webinar would want to know: what would be the next step forward in terms of event organizers, event planners who are thinking of events coming up in the next months? What is what will be the next step if they have to reach out to you? What is the pricing like? What is your model? How would you want to take it up?
Right. No, it's a fair point. So the way we do it is that, as we showed you, we have these 5 core video formats with the hybrid format of speed dating coming in July. What we do is we set up a private demo for each, right? So we have a showcase event where we understand what's the event. It's like a half-an-hour conversation. And then, of course, we give you a price proposal. And usually it's based on a number of user days. So how many users are going to attend? You have blocks of 100. Sometimes you have blocks of 1,000 for a large event, and it's based on how many attendees you're going to have. This is some of the modules are optional, so you might pay for example, the mobile app separately if you want. I mean, some people don't want mobile apps, but we have the choice that you could have other than your desktop or mobile app. So you have some add-ons if you like the mobile app, like a Salesforce connector, for example. but predominantly the core platform is on the desktop with the choice of mobile apps, and you just pay for the size of the event. So for example, if you're just going to have 30 people, 50 people, you're not going to spend what someone with 10,000 attendees are going to spend, or someone with 100,000 attendees. So we did an event in January with 300,000 attendees, right? That was like a hybrid uh, model.
Right.
So yeah, so that's the model. We do have a professional services team. I mean, the platform is pretty extensive. So our general change of branding, etc., our customer success does that, as part of the license fee. But we do get some of the large companies do have very specific needs. So we introduce them to our professional services team. But we try not to do that. We want you to have a cost managed environment where you run with the product. But if you do have something very, very unique, then yeah, you pay separately for professional services. But that's not necessary. And in 7 out of 10 cases, you don't need it.
Sure. And when you say that, I guess there is also a team that is helping these customers be on board. So the onboarding team takes care of the
Yeah.
setup.
So the thing is that, yeah, the one thing is that we give you a white glove service. I mean, when they see our CMS, it's there. But for example, when they have to live stream an audio video, and when they go to the panel and there are 20 questions about whether it is HLS or MPEG dash, or whether it's whether it's AAC audio or alternate, many of our event planners get intimidated. But the fact is, you cannot remove those questions, because those questions are required to make sure that the streaming happens, as an example. So they have, with the license comes a full white glove customer support, customer success team. They make sure that you know how to upload your data. If you don't know how to upload it, we take it in Excel, we show it to them. We make sure that, during the event, we are on standby. And, so it's an end-to-end white glove service, because the kind of events we do are very, very prestigious. You can see some of the names here. We have a lot more names that we cannot talk about because of the NDAs, etc. But we
I
ensure
can see some
end-to-end.
big names here, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the
Yeah,
BCR,
yeah,
and so on.
yeah,
So I'm very sure that, yeah, I mean, I'm sure, because you've been in the industry for a very long time.
yeah,
E2M in its entirety as a product has been in the market for 9+ years now. So I'm
yeah,
very
yeah.
sure that you guys are doing a good job in terms of that. And having said that, there is a question that has popped in, Sid.
Yeah, I'll just mention one more point, Aditi, before we go to
Sure,
the questions, is that,
sure.
we have a very deep relationship. I have to do my sales part. I'm sorry. I'm paid to do that. But the fact is, we have a very deep relationship with a lot of traditional event managers and event agencies.
Right.
While we do work with brands, but we understand that the relationship that the event agencies or the event visualizers have with their clients are sort of, sometimes they're very, very old, for decades, for years, they've managed that agency. So we work very well with agencies to deliver the end-to-end experience to the client, right from things like registration. I mean, just before we jump to the questions, I mean, simple things like registration. How many times do you fill out an event reg form, whether it's Zoho or anything else, and you say, wow? Very few people say wow. Usually when they get a reg screen, they are saying, oh Lord, let it be autofill. Please let it be autofill. I don't have patience to type my name and my
Yeah,
title and my phone
absolutely.
and blah, blah, blah. You
And
just
it's
wish.
an absolute killer. I mean,
Yeah.
I've
It's a
seen, I mean, that
friction.
reminds me of the WebEx one, the WebEx
Yeah.
form.
Oh
That
Lord, I
is
didn't even
crazy.
enroll. I didn't even enroll. I don't know how do they do business. I mean, some of these older companies, I don't know how they are in business. I mean, Cisco is funding them to no end, I think, because when you see the reg form, it's like, kill me, God, please
Yes,
kill
it's
me.
a long
I'm
form
not,
and you
I'm
don't
not
know
going to
where to
fill
start.
this. Yeah,
True.
to attend an event, I need to do all this. It's easier to file your income tax return than
Absolutely.
fill these forms. So yeah, that's all. And yeah, let's go to the questions.
Sure. Thank you, Sid. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. Now I'll take up the questions now. Now that we are on the last leg of the webinar. So the
Sure.
first question is from Christina, and the question is: if we need only live stream pre-recorded service, do
Yeah.
you have such service only locally in Singapore?
Yeah, Singapore, we have an office. I'm there. So Singapore support is no problem. See, if you only just need sort of live stream, and and if that's the only thing you need without the reg, without the whole experience. So as an example, for example, we have the ability for someone who comes in, he will listen to a music, he'll wait in the lobby, and he'll have a counter running, right? And as the counter finishes, then the live stream will start. As the live stream starts, the event planner can have a custom photo feed, for example, going underneath that. In the case of the charity that we worked with, they were alternating it with a feed of text to donate, right? And they were showing that. So that's where we come into the picture. You can use our platform as is, but if you just want to stream, then to be honest, you don't need us. I mean, we can give you some ideas on how to just achieve that. And if you just have one file you want to stream on say a general client, we can probably guide you, because if you don't need reg, if you don't need the user experience, then you don't really need us. You could actually even do it, for example, on YouTube Live. If you don't have no need for authentication, for the whole experience, then we can tell you that, okay, this is where you upload your file, and why don't you stream it to Facebook Live and YouTube? You don't even need us. You'll not spend a lot of money.
Sure.
But if you need the whole experience, then you need us. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Christina. I think Sid has answered your question. Feel free to ask us if you have any other. Now the next question, Sid, is from Stella. Stella would like to know what would happen if the number of attendees are more than they have subscribed to. So how will it be charged? That's a great question.
Yeah. So there's obviously an estimate. So you make an estimate and you add 10% buffer. And other than that, we work in blocks of 25. So you have a cost for 25 more users, 100, 500, and 1,000.
In packs of 25.
Yeah. So they can add on to packs of 25. But yeah, so if the question is what happens if we don't stop the stream. So that's the thing. So if for example, you have 1,000 users and you end up with 1,500 people on your platform, you will just get an invoice from us for the remaining 500 for the period. But you will not. I mean, we don't stop. And our systems have been built from cloud native up, which means that even if you get 1 million users,
it's horizontally scalable.
Yeah, it just scales horizontally. It will not go down. And for people whose systems have gone down, they will realize it's a big statement. It will not go down. It will scale, and you will have an agreement with us, which will cover the fact that if you cross the number of users. Yeah.
Sure. I think, Stella, that answers your second question as well, that if there are, let's say you've subscribed for 100 attendees and there is a 101 person who's entering, yes, we are not going to stop you, but yeah, of course, you will give you, based on your consumption, you'll be charged. Yeah, that's the answer.
Exactly.
All right. So the next question, I think, is from another person who's anonymous. But yeah, the question is very interesting, Sid. It is asking you, do you have a virtual 3D environment, like a virtual lobby, conference halls, exhibition area, exhibition booth? I think that's a great question.
Yeah. So thing is that those things are part of our professional services team, where we custom create the 3D experience. We have 2.5D templates to create visual booths. But what we found is that if you want like a game-like experience, like a Unity game experience, where you go inside a booth, you are seeing things on your left, seeing on your right, you're taking like a tour, then those things are done by as a custom thing. It's not automated from a CMS that you can just do it. Yeah. But what we've seen is that, really as a video first platform, I think we're very focused on ROI, because the cost of doing those very fancy game-like 3.3D designs, there is the question of real value, because when somebody comes in, they like it. What we want is we want them to actually have a video conversation with your booth staff. That's really the main goal. They can get your videos and your business and your professional collaterals from your website. So how is this different? The difference is the fact that it will help you to get into a video conversation with the salespeople or the booth staff. And that's really the key of a virtual event. Having a very fancy 3D is possible. We have done tons of 2.5D. We do it. Sometimes the customers do it themselves. It's just that the time and cost of doing it in, say, 3D Max, and then converting it into animated one with Unity far outweighs the ROI. So I'm not discouraging that. There are certain use cases where it can be useful, but that has to be done on a custom basis. Yeah, but the focus is really to get your
Sure.
customers to talk to you. That's the key for a virtual booth. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks. I think that answers most of the questions, and I think there is a question I can see. Will we get a report of who attends? That's a question.
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
In fact,
So the
we have
analytics will take care of that, right?
not only that, we have a live. We have the ability for a live dashboard. So, for example, the moment somebody logs in, you can actually see who's logged in. It's almost like the same experience of when you are at your physical event and when somebody checks in, and you know that Mr. or Miss so and so has walked in. You would know that. So you can get a live report, and then you can get you can get I mean, it's insane. If you see the reporting, what anyone did, which parts of the screen they were at, how much time did they spend, which browser they were using, which, you get the whole Google Analytics into two.
Absolutely.
So, you can feast on the analytics.
I
Some
think
of it
there's also
happens
a
in.
very great feature, Sid, that you guys have, that you can even show whether they are from an Android or an iOS. So, you'll
Oh yeah,
have.
yeah. So those are pretty standard in web analytics, but we take it one step forward where you get granular. So you get some of the analytics in real time. So as the event is happening, the event planners can be in a war room and see how's it going. And then
Yeah.
some of the analytics is, exported by the system after the event is finished because they need a relevant processing time. So when you have all of it, is just a feast. You can put it into a BI system, go and cross query, cross tab, do your bit. Yeah.
Sure. So, yeah, I think there's another question from Perilla that the question is there a business matching feature or can we integrate it?
So the speed dating in a way is a random business
Is a
matching
business.
feature. We have this meeting module, which is an optional module, which actually came from a traditional package, which we are now bringing it to the on-air part, where essentially you can select, and so it's more like a requisition. You want to meet somebody, they accept, and then if they deny, then you don't get it, comes into the thing. Now, when you talk about business matching in terms of tags, there's another option where it imports the tags. So that is another way of recommending, but at the end of the day, it still has to go via the route of you being, you request for a meeting, and then the other party has to confirm. But if you have, say, tens of thousands of attendees, then using the tag feature, it will recommend whom you should request. So as an example. So yeah, but that's, to be honest, again, I have to be very honest here in the sense that those things have been done in the past, and honestly there are certain vendors who are very deep into that certain kind of thing. So if you're really looking at almost like a magical suggester, then it is better for you because we have an API based structure, so it's better for you to hook into your system, because our platform is focused on video, you know and our platform is focused on making two parties connect via video, uh, either in one-to-many format or many-to-many format or many-to-one format. So to be upfront, I think if you want a very deep AI-based suggestive matching feature, then it's better for you to use an existing vendor and just use our APIs to hook that into our system. But we do have a pretty decent meeting module and a tag-based suggestion engine. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so there is another question, quite an interesting one. It says, will the bandwidth be sufficient to support the number of people who may be on videos at the same time at respective rooms or booths?
So that's up to the user, right? So the bandwidth is coming from the server, and that's, as I said, it's horizontally scalable, both from a bandwidth perspective. And that's why our pricing model is based on per user, right? Because every user adds to the load. Now, the bandwidth at the customer's end is home bandwidth, is what can be the choking point. And for that, we do offer adaptive bit stream, for example. In our
Sure.
panel sessions, by default, we don't go 1080p. We have it at like, for example, what you see us is probably somewhere around 480p or 360p, which is less than half of an HD. And, this is what we can, of course, if you're talking about a private network where you're assured, everyone has say 100 Mbps, then we can tune it. We can just go and on our CMS say 1080p for everything, which means HD for everything. But then if somebody doesn't have good bandwidth, then they'll have problems. So adaptive bitrate is the best. So that let the system decide whether it wants to scale up to 1080p or go down to as low as 240p, for example. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So I think the last question for today, I think, or the second last one. Yeah, the last one. Have you executed medical conferences for medical or non-medical associations in the past, or any confirmed conferences in the future for the medical industry? I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to clarify, On-Air is something we were working on for the last 1 year. Of course, it got expedited and it's now become the center of our offering because of the current global situation. But as a event engagement company, as an attendee engagement company, we've been on for more than 7 years now. So in Asia, for example, APAC Med is a conference we've been supporting for many years. They've been using our app and infrastructure. Sanofi as a company have used us. There have been few more pharma companies that have used us, but I think APAC Med is probably the largest medical association in Asia. I mean, we have a separate team working in the US where we have larger events that we do, but I think in Singapore and Asia, I don't know if you remember anything else, but APAC Med is, as an association, they are one of the most prominent. And then we have these.
We have Sanofi also.
Yeah, Sanofi and a few more, as I remember. I mean, there are hundreds of customers we've had the fortune of serving. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right. I think that answers all the questions that we've received so far, Sid. And I think we have exceeded all the time. And I mean, it's always very interesting. And every time we've had a webinar, we've had questions pouring in like anything. So I have a last note from Aman that has just popped in. Thanks, Aditi, for taking up the questions. Thank you, Sid, for answering my questions on 3D and medical. So that was from Aman. Thank you, Aman. Thanks for visiting. Thanks for joining in today. And please drop us. And this is a common answer for all of you who are expecting a copy of this webinar. Yes, we will reach out to you once the webinar is over. Don't worry about it. And thank you so much to all of you for joining in. I think we are now reaching a 1 hour mark, Sid.
Yeah.
So thanks to you. Thanks for joining us again on the short notice. And thank you for answering all the questions that most of us had so far. For other things, I will let all the participants drop us an email. We'll share more information on take it up personally.
And just to add, in case you want a meeting, then the best way is if you go to our website E2M Live. There's a live. You can actually set up a time right there.
Yeah.
And
request a call back.
Yeah. And Aditi or somebody from the team will be there and we'll talk to you and within a day you can get the process of getting a virtual event started.
Absolutely. So it's a very simple process. You can just pick a slot based on your convenience and set up a meeting with us, drop some preliminary information as well in the same meeting invite, and we will be happy to talk to you.
Okay. All right. Thanks guys. Be safe.
Thanks for joining in. Thank you to all of you. Thanks. Be safe and see you in the next webinar. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.